Do you want to see a real human aura? Better yet, do you want to learn how to actively hack your own visual cortex to make the objects right in front of you disappear? We're going to walk through a biological optical exploit to trigger sensory adaptation in your eyes. Once we've seen how the brain invents visual data, we can look at the actual, measurable light and magnetic fields your body is constantly emitting. To make this work, you need three things: your screen at normal brightness, a dimly lit room, and perfectly, rigidly still eyes. Exploring the gap between a mystical experience and biological reality requires us to look at the moments where our nervous system stops reporting the world as it is and starts filling in the blanks on its own. In 1804, a Swiss physician named Ignace Paul Vital Troxler documented a quirk in human vision known as retinal adaptation. When a visual stimulus remains constant, the photoreceptors in your retina, rods and cones, fatigue. They desensitize to save energy, stopping the signal. Normally, tiny eye movements called microsaccades constantly refresh the image, preventing this fatigue. To trigger the Troxler fade, you have to manually suppress those movements. Look directly at the black crosshair in the center of this target. Lock your gaze exactly on the intersection and keep it there. Do not blink. Hold your eyes completely rigid. Even the slightest micromovement will refresh your retina and reset the experiment. Just keep staring directly at the cross. Notice the blurry pastel shapes in your peripheral vision. They are starting to desaturate. The colors are fading, melting away into the gray background until they vanish completely. When those shapes vanish, your sensory neurons have successfully paused their transmission. They are no longer sending the redundant data of those blurry shapes to your brain. Now, look away from the crosshair, or blink your eyes rapidly to break the adaptation. You should see a glowing, complementary colored negative afterimage of those shapes. This biological glitch, retinal fatigue followed by a sudden burst of activity, is often mistaken for a mystical aura. When the data for the shapes faded away, your brain performed a process called visual filling in. Deprived of clear input, it actively interpolated the missing space by pasting the surrounding gray background over the colors. This raises a question for philosopher Daniel Dennett. Is this a gap in experience, or does the brain generate a map to hide missing data? While that glowing halo is a neurological illusion, your body does project a physical glow that functions on entirely different biophysical principles. In 1923, Alexander Gurwitch first observed that living tissues emit ultra-faint traces of light, a discovery now confirmed as ultra-weak photon emissions, or biophotons. As the brain consumes energy, it produces reactive oxygen species. When these molecules chemically settle, they release an ultra-faint particle of light. Using highly sensitive cryogenic CCD cameras in absolute darkness, scientists can record this glow. These measurements show that our light emissions naturally peak around the face, cheeks, and forehead. However, these biophotons are billions of times too faint for the naked human eye to detect. Any aura visible to an observer in a normal room is an optical illusion. The body's true biological light is an invisible byproduct of cellular metabolism. Beyond light, the nervous system also generates its own distinct magnetic fields. When tens of thousands of neurons synchronize and fire electrical currents down their dendrites, they induce weak perpendicular magnetic fields that project outward from the scalp. To record these signals, measured on the picotesla scale, clinicians use magnetoencephalography, or MEG. These machines require a magnetically shielded room to isolate the brain's signals from the Earth's own magnetic noise. Inside, they use superconducting quantum interference devices to track the brain's minute activity. These true emissions represent two different sides of our biology. MEG measures the magnetic fields of electrical neural firing, while biophotons are the light particles created by metabolic chemical reactions. You've just experienced how easily the brain can be tricked. By holding your gaze steady, you successfully forced your retinal cells to ignore a visual stimulus and watch your brain fill in the void. That colorful halo was an artifact of your optical hardware. The invisible reality is the continuous stream of biophotons and magnetic fields actually radiating from your cells every moment. Even though it is hidden from our eyes, the human body is emitting light and pulsing with magnetic energy every second of the day. Test the Troxler fade on a friend to see how easily their brain can be hacked. And for more deep dives into the mechanics of human biology, subscribe.